It was Saturday morning, and I woke up with one clear thought in my head. Today I had to find the perfect gift for my best friend's birthday. I stretched, looked at the ceiling, and whispered to myself, "Don't panic, you still have time." But did I really? I checked my phone. 2 missed messages. One from Anna, "Don't forget my party starts at 6. The second was from Mark, saying he could join me for coffee if I was in town. My brain immediately switched from sleepy to mission mode. I quickly made a plan. First, go to the beauty shop, then find a nice gift shop, and finally, stop by the cafe near the park for a latte and maybe a slice of cheesecake. Simple, right? I smiled. Simple plans always turn into adventures. When I opened my wardrobe, chaos smiled back at me. There were clothes everywhere, but somehow nothing to wear. I wanted to look nice, but not too fancy. After 5 minutes of staring, I picked my favorite blue dress and white sneakers. The city was busy. People were walking fast, carrying colorful bags. The weather was warm and sunny, and everything smelled like spring and coffee. I felt light, ready for a fun day. I even started humming a song I didn't know the words to. At the beauty shop, I tried 10 different perfumes. 10. The sales assistant smiled politely, but I saw a little sparkle of panic in her eyes. Finally, I found one that smelled like vanilla and flowers. Perfect for Anna, sweet and soft, like her laugh. Then I noticed a shelf with candles shaped like cupcakes. I couldn't resist. I took one, and it smelled like caramel heaven. I thought maybe I should buy 2, one for Anna, one for me. Birthday twins, why not? When I left the shop, my phone buzzed again. A message from Mark. Still up for coffee? I looked at the sky, smiled, and typed back, "Sure, cafe by the park in 15 minutes. My shopping bag swung happily by my side. On the way to the cafe, I passed a street musician playing guitar. He smiled, and I dropped a coin into his hat. The melody followed me like sunshine. My day was going perfectly. Or at least that's what I thought before I saw Mark waiting. He was already at the table, 2 coffees and a small box in front of him. When I sat down, he pushed the box toward me. "Just something small," he said. For no reason. I opened it and saw a tiny bracelet with a star charm. And suddenly, the day felt special. Mark smiled when he saw my face. I tried to say something, but only a quiet thank you came out. The bracelet was simple, silver and beautiful. I turned it in my hands and said, "It's lovely, really." He laughed softly and said, "You like stars, right?" We sat there, drinking coffee and talking about small things. The music from the park, the smell of cinnamon from the cafe, the warm sun touching my hair, everything felt too perfect for an ordinary afternoon. I didn't want the moment to end. But then I remembered Anna's party. I looked at my phone, 3 hours left. Time was running, and I still hadn't found a card or wrapping paper. I jumped up, almost spilling my coffee, and said, "I have to run." He smiled like he knew that already. Mark stood up too and said, "Let me help you." I wanted to say no, but somehow it sounded nice to have company. So we went together. It felt like a mini adventure. A gift hunt with a handsome partner? Not bad at all. Our first stop was the bookstore. Anna loved poetry, so I decided to buy her a small poetry book. Mark helped me choose one with a soft pink cover and golden letters. He said, "This one looks like a secret waiting to be read." I agreed, completely. Then we looked for wrapping paper. I wanted something simple but elegant. I found a roll with stars and tiny hearts. Mark looked at it and said, "Stars again? You really have a theme today?" I laughed. "Maybe it's a sign," I said. He just smiled. Next, we stopped at the bakery. The smell was heavenly, chocolate, vanilla, and freshly baked croissants. I couldn't resist and ordered 2 cupcakes, one with raspberry cream, one with chocolate. Mark paid before I even noticed. He just winked. We sat outside on a bench, the cupcakes in our hands, and the city buzzing softly around us. I told him about Anna, how we met, how she once baked a cake that exploded in the oven. He laughed so hard that people turned to look at us. As the clock ticked closer to 6, I stood up and said, "Time to go." He offered to walk me to Anna's place, but I said I'd be fine. Still, he followed me for a few blocks, carrying the gift bag like a hero on a mission. Then he waved goodbye. When I reached Anna's door, I stopped for a moment. My heart was warm, my hands full, and my mind full of little moments from the day. I smiled, thinking how birthdays are not just about gifts, but about people who make your day shine. When I entered Anna's apartment, the lights were low, and everything smelled like vanilla candles and laughter. Someone shouted surprise, and for a second I actually jumped. Anna was in the center, wearing a shiny dress and her happy face. The music was playing softly, the table was full of sweets, and friends were talking over each other. I handed Anna her gift. She hugged me so tightly that I almost dropped it. Then she whispered, "You always know what I love." My heart melted a little. She opened the box and smiled when she saw the perfume. "Oh, vanilla and flowers, my favorite," she said. I smiled and answered, I guessed right again. Everyone clapped, as if I just solved a mystery. Maybe I really had. Then someone turned on louder music and people started dancing. I wasn't planning to, but Anna grabbed my hand and said, "Come on, you can't just stand there." So I danced. Clumsy at first, then freer. My laugh mixed with the music. After a few songs, I went to the balcony to breathe. The city lights looked like stars scattered on the ground. I touched the bracelet Mark gave me and smiled. The silver star on it shined quietly, as if it also enjoyed the night. I was still lost in my thoughts when my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "Hope the party's fun. Don't eat all the cake." I laughed quietly and typed back, "Too late, I already did." He sent a smile emoji and wrote, "Save me a piece next time." Back inside, Anna was taking pictures with everyone. She made me hold the candle-shaped cupcake I'd bought earlier. When she saw it, she laughed so hard that her mascara almost ran. "You bought this? It's adorable. It smells like caramel dreams." Later that night, she played a game. Everyone had to share one funny memory with her. When it was my turn, I told the story about her cake explosion. She shouted "Nuo" and laughed until tears appeared in her eyes. Everyone joined in. As the clock showed almost midnight, I realized how full the room was, full of music, sweet smells, and small moments of joy. I looked at my friend and thought, this is what happiness sounds like. Warm, simple, and a little loud. When the party was over, I helped Anna clean the table. There were pieces of cake, half-empty cups, and confetti on the floor. She smiled and said, "You don't have to help," but I stayed anyway. It felt good to finish the night with quiet laughter. I put on my coat and said goodbye to everyone. The air outside was cool, soft, and smelled like rain. I started walking home, my shoes clicking on the sidewalk. The city was calm, only streetlights and one sleepy cat watching me pass by. I opened my phone and looked at Mark's last message. "Save me a piece next time." I smiled. Next time sounded nice. I texted him. "The cake didn't survive, but I still have one cupcake left." He answered fast. "Then I guess I owe you coffee tomorrow." My heart jumped a little. It wasn't a big thing, just coffee. But somehow it felt like something new, something small but bright. I kept walking and thought about how strange days can be. One morning you buy a gift, and by evening, you get one too. When I reached my building, I met my neighbor, Mrs. Green, watering her plants. She said, "Out late, young lady?" I laughed and answered, "Just a birthday party." She looked at my bracelet and said, "Someone has good taste." I blushed, trying not to smile too much. Inside my apartment, I kicked off my shoes and sat on the sofa. My bag was full of small, happy things: perfume paper, a ribbon, a photo with Anna. I looked at them one by one, feeling grateful. Sometimes little moments make the biggest stories. Then I remembered the candle I'd bought, the one that smelled like caramel heaven. I lit it and watched the soft flame move slowly. The room filled with sweetness and silence. My cat jumped onto the couch, looking at me like, "Long day, huh?" I laughed softly, scratching his ear. He purred, as if saying, "You did great today." I leaned back and whispered, "Yes, I really did." Tomorrow would come with new plans, maybe coffee, maybe another small surprise. But tonight, everything felt just right. The next morning, the sun was already shining through the curtains when I opened my eyes. My cat was sitting next to me, staring like a small furry alarm clock. I stretched, smiled, and said, "Good morning, world." It felt like a new chapter had begun. I checked my phone, one message. "Mark, still up for coffee?" I smiled before even reading the rest. Of course I was. I typed back, "Give me 30 minutes. Then I ran to the mirror. My hair looked like a storm, but my heart felt calm and excited. I picked my soft pink sweater, jeans, and that same bracelet with the tiny star. It sparkled quietly, like it also wanted to go for coffee. As I left the apartment, Mrs. Green shouted from her balcony, "Good luck, dear." I waved back, pretending not to blush. The cafe was almost empty when I arrived. The smell of coffee and vanilla filled the air again, that same warm smell from yesterday. Mark was already there, sitting by the window, waving at me with a smile that looked like morning sunshine. We ordered 2 cappuccinos and shared one blueberry muffin. He said, "Birthdays make people busy, but I'm glad you had time for this." I laughed and said, "Maybe I just like muffins." He looked at me and said, "Maybe it's not the muffin." We talked about everything: music, books, small dreams, the best kind of weekends. It wasn't a serious conversation, but it felt real. Sometimes the best talks are the easy ones, where every smile says more than words could ever do. After coffee, we walked through the park. The trees were full of light, the air was fresh, and the city seemed quieter than usual. I felt light too, like everything had slowed down just enough for me to notice how good it felt to be right there. When we reached the corner, Mark stopped and said, "So, what's your next mission today?" I laughed. "Maybe cleaning my room," I said. "Maybe not." He smiled, then gently touched the bracelet on my wrist and said, "Keep the star shining." "I will," I whispered. On my way home, I thought about how simple days can turn into stories without any plan. One birthday, one cup of coffee, one smile, and suddenly life feels a little brighter. The candle was waiting on my desk, still smelling like caramel heaven. I lit it again that evening. The tiny flame danced, and I whispered to myself, "Today was good, tomorrow will be good too." Because sometimes the best surprises aren't wrapped in paper. They just appear like stars on an ordinary day. So, my friend, this was our story about friendship, surprises, and small moments that make life bright. You learned how to talk about gifts, parties, plans, and emotions in simple English with words you can use every day. You practiced verbs like plan, buy, help, and share. You heard how to use the present tense naturally in a story. You learned polite phrases, warm expressions, and how to sound kind and confident when you speak to people. And most importantly, you learned that English lives in small things, in smiles, in coffee talks, in birthdays, in real life. Every sentence you hear, every story you understand, brings you closer to speaking freely and naturally. If you smiled even once while listening, that means your English just grew stronger. Because when you enjoy learning, you remember faster, you feel better, and you start to love the language itself. That's where progress really begins. So keep listening, keep smiling, keep learning with me. More stories are coming, funny, romantic, full of everyday English you'll use again and again. Subscribe to the podcast, and let's keep growing together, one beautiful story at a time.